But what I found was that once we got to a place where he cared where he disappointed me, then the relationship took hold and I had something I could work with. Now, what makes the difference between someone for whom you'll go the extra mile and inconvenience yourself versus the person who, when their caller ID comes across the screen, you just keep washing dishes? Many parents are already at that negative juncture, kind of like I was when my son was very young, before their children leave the preschool years. And that sets such a difficult stage for them as they go into public schools, because then you're likely to be having pressure at home, you're not getting along at home, and then that child may take those same habits and do them at school, so you've got pressure from school and pressure at home. If this is where you are tonight, we want to help you try to curve that process back around towards a place where your child wants to respond to you positively again. When you're communicating to your child that you want to be emotionally available for them, and that doesn't mean indulging them, but you're letting them know, I care, I'm here for you, you'd steer them towards application of Ephesians 4:15-16. Speaking truly, dealing truly, living truly. You teach your child a 3-step process. State your thoughts, name your feelings, do both in love. We should believe in ourselves as parents in a way that helps us realize that no one is as good as you to raise your child. Of all the people God could have given that child to, He gave her to you to raise. What a compliment. See it as an honor. You have to go the whole way from baby bud to teenage full bloom, always learning and adjusting what you thought you knew. When we as adults regularly encounter roadblocks, we start cutting through the ditches, start making another way. When he couldn't succeed by her rules, he made his own rules. Out went hers, in came his. This is not a position you want to place your child in. We want to make sure that the rules that we have are attainable so that they don't get frustrated and give up and make up their own rules. And sometimes we do that in our house or in our classroom. We set that bar too high. So have standards, but make sure they're attainable. If you have to put the heat on in one area, where can you let up in another so that there are rules and freedoms? Everyone has to be given ways to win. And also recognize that sometimes your classroom might be the nicest, most orderly, safest place for the children that come to you. Be generally aware of painting children into too tight a corner and then lecturing when they break a rule. And see improvement in small increments. You may not reach the goal that you have on that spider, but are you making some improvement? And if so, well then continue what you've been doing. Let situations and behavior engage you in problem solving and in thinking. As a relationship builder, be your child's best cheerleader in this world. They should know nobody's got a bigger megaphone than you. No one is cheering harder for them to run the race to win than mom, dad, grandpa, whoever is doing the raising. Well, this applies to all ages. If your child, spouse, elder parent knows you will come when you can, they can relax. So responding promptly is a relationship builder between the two of you. So while they're young, you start working on that inner life, getting them to do it themselves, to control themselves. You know you're making progress when they care that they disappoint you. That's your gauge. Don't let your child convince you he's too tough for your life. You might be the difference maker. Everybody needs one. This is part of what you want to be doing, whatever your position. Opening possibilities, suggesting new vistas, helping life work for them. We're not about perfection, trying to implement everything that research tells us. We'd go crazy, and everyone else would walk out of this room with our tail between our legs, and that would do no good. What I want you to realize is to have a general idea of what some of the effects of media can be on young children, so that you can have them in mind as you raise and work with them. So research clearly says that lots of media is a no-no, while the market says we're moving forward. They're buying, so we're producing. They're not going to quit creating what we will purchase. We're not just going to be looking at what do we do with the physical space in our house, what kinds of media equipment are available and where. But what are we doing with the space in our minds? What's going in there and how is it shaping us or our children? That's going to be our next hour. You're after that independent thinking. You hope it's going to spill over into other areas like their peers daring them to do something stupid and so on. You're helping them to learn how to think on their own. When a principle of yours is sacrificed for the sake of being like others, you make a bad trade. Be willing to set your own standards of what's appropriate for you and your child or your home or your classroom. And you don't have to apologize for that. You can set your own standards. You want to always ask in a classroom or when they go into groups, what's going to be watched, what's going to occur, when will it end? You always ask what's going to be going on. And don't just assume that other people can make good decisions about what's right for your child or for your classroom. Exposure to what the world has to offer may create a sophisticated child, or we say a precocious child, a child that knows what the world values and expects. But that's not the same thing as maturity, as wisdom. So make sure that you're thinking and then you're evaluating. And don't make the assumption that just because it's the latest, coolest thing, that it must be great for kids. So how can we keep ourselves together well, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, in order to contribute to having a healthier world, healthier workplaces, healthier relationships? What can we do to do our part? Taking on too much and overstuffing schedules is not a family-friendly practice. It doesn't help your workplace either, but it sure doesn't help at home. Have the discipline and maturity to say no to what you need to say no to so that you can say yes to what you want to say yes to. Maybe you've been at odds for so long that you hadn't even taken some time to say to yourself, there have to be some things going right. It can't all be negative. What's something that's going right in my daughter's life right now? And maybe I need to say that to her when I go home today. What's something that's going right in my marriage? What's something that's going right at my workplace? Sometimes as adults, we can think that because we drive and pay taxes, that we have the right to manifest all sorts of behavior that we would denounce in children. Stinginess, rudeness, I have my rights type of approach. And we forget that these are the very behaviors that we fuss about in young children. Are you using your words? Are you being a friend? And then we turn around and we're not a friend. So remember that adult status is a greater responsibility, not a cutout from responsibility. And working with children in children's centers, when they promote up to that next room, are we proud of the work we've done? We can't control what that next year's teacher does, but have we done our job well? And then you really can look yourself in the mirror and say, well done, I did it right.